Steve Jobs, the failure that made him stronger. Most people know Steve Jobs as the genius behind Apple, a visionary who forever changed the way we interact with technology. His name is synonymous with innovation, relentless ambition, and a drive for perfection that shaped the digital world we live in today. But few know the story of the failure that almost ended his career, a moment that threatened not only his dreams, but his very identity. This is the story of how Steve Jobs was broken, and how that breaking point became the foundation for his greatest triumph. In the mid-1960s, a wave of creativity swept through Silicon Valley. In a small garage in Los Altos, California, Steve Jobs, along with his friend Steve Wozniak, set out to build something that had never been seen before. They called it the Apple I. With little more than a vision and a relentless drive, they transformed that modest workspace into the birthplace of a revolution. Within a few short years, Apple was not just a company, it was a force. The Apple II became a household name, making personal computing accessible to millions. By the time Jobs was in his 20s, he was already a millionaire. By 30, he was at the helm of a technological empire. But success is rarely a straight path. As Apple grew, so did the pressures and expectations. Jobs was brilliant, but he was also demanding. Sometimes mercurial, often uncompromising. The very qualities that fueled Apple's meteoric rise began to alienate those around him. Internal battles at Apple's highest levels became fierce. A clash of visions unfolded between Jobs and the board of directors, particularly with then CEO John Sculley, whom Jobs himself had recruited. In 1985, the unimaginable happened. Steve Jobs was forced out of the company he had created. Imagine building something from the ground up, nurturing it with your own energy, passion, and spirit, only to be told you were no longer needed. The world watched as headlines announced his resignation. For Jobs, the experience was devastating. He was embarrassed, humiliated, and left adrift. The loss was not just professional, it was deeply personal. He later described it as a public failure, a moment when the ground seemed to vanish beneath his feet. But out of that darkness, something remarkable began to happen. Jobs refused to let failure define him. Instead, he saw it as an opportunity, a chance to start again, free from the expectations and constraints that had come with his first success. He founded Next, a new technology company that aimed to create powerful computers for the higher education and business markets. The journey was fraught with challenges. The products were expensive, the market limited, and Next struggled to find its footing. But the lessons Jobs absorbed during this period would prove invaluable. At the same time, Jobs made another bold move. He purchased a small computer graphics division from Lucasfilm, which he would transform into Pixar animation studios. This investment was risky, but Jobs saw potential where others saw only uncertainty. Under his guidance, Pixar went on to create the first-ever full-length computer-animated film Toy Story, a global phenomenon that changed the future of animation. Jobs' vision and leadership helped Pixar become an industry giant, producing films beloved by audiences of all ages. Reflecting on this period, Jobs would later say, "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life." The pain of failure became the catalyst for renewal, a chance to discover new possibilities and reinvent himself. Meanwhile, back at Apple, times were tough. The company that Jobs had once led to greatness was now struggling. Innovation had stalled, products failed to excite, and the stock price plummeted. In 1997, with Apple on the brink of collapse, the board made a dramatic decision. They invited Steve Jobs to return. It was a moment of both vindication and immense challenge. The prodigal founder was back. But the company he returned to was a shadow of its former self. Jobs wasted no time. He streamlined operations, cutting unnecessary products and focusing the company's energy on a handful of core initiatives. With his trademark intensity, he inspired a new culture of innovation. The result was a series of groundbreaking products: the colorful iMac, which redefined what a personal computer could look like; the iPod, which revolutionized the way we listen to music; and ultimately, the iPhone, which put the power of a computer into the palms of our hands and changed the world forever. His return marked the beginning of one of the most remarkable second acts in business history. Apple became not just profitable, but iconic. The company's products didn't just meet consumer needs, they anticipated them, setting new standards for design, usability, and imagination. Under Jobs' leadership, Apple soared to unprecedented heights, becoming the most valuable company in the world. But perhaps the most important lesson from Steve Jobs' life is not about technology or business. It's about resilience. Sometimes, life hits you hard. Dreams shatter, plans unravel. Failures come, often when we least expect them. But as Jobs proved, failure isn't the end of the story. For those with the courage to keep moving forward, it can be the beginning of something even greater. Jobs once said, "Sometimes life hits you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith." His journey is a testament to the power of perseverance, the ability to learn from our mistakes, to grow stronger in the face of adversity, and to find new purpose even in our darkest moments. Success isn't about never falling. It's about rising again and again, stronger each time. Steve Jobs' legacy is not just in the devices we hold in our hands, but in the spirit of innovation and resilience that lives on in all who dare to dream and who have the courage to rise after they fall. Success in 7 minutes. Follow for more.